what do you think of when you hear the term biotechnology? Do you think of designer babies? Or global outbreaks? Maybe virus research gone wrong? What about the emergence of a superhuman machine race? Chances are we've all heard of at least one of these scenarios, because in popular fiction and the popular imagination, the vision for biotechnology is a pretty dystopic one. Whether we have Cylons in Battlestar Galactica, kind of hell-bent on eradicating humanity, or social engineering based on genetics in Gattaca, or even a virus wiping us out in Planet of the Apes after we tried to experiment on apes and then better ourselves. We know how this story goes. Well-meaning scientist discovers a biotechnology treatment that can improve our lives in ways that we can't imagine. And things are good for a while before that technology either turns against us or is used against us, and then we're dehumanized, maybe even enslaved, and possibly eradicated by that technology. But I can't blame science fiction for that alone. Also because I love science fiction. We as scientists and doctors have also not done a very good job of representing biotechnology. Because like any form of innovation, there's always a double-edged sword to progress. And a lot of the science fiction takes, like any form of fiction, its material from reality. So I'm going to tell you a few stories about things that have gone wrong and how I think we might overturn this. So, starting with a couple of incredibly sad and tragic examples, actually. So, there was a really good stem cell therapy for children with leukemia. And that therapy offered the only hope of survival and a cure. And it worked amazingly well for several years. And then suddenly, and incredibly sadly, 4 of the children died. And when it was later halted, the treatment, they discovered that actually something had gone wrong in the freezing process that they normally do to kind of do the treatment. And there was an inquiry, and it was found that the safeguards there maybe weren't what they should be. Another example is a really incredible gene therapy cure. So there was a trial using gene therapy to help children who were born without an immune system. These children are often described in the media as bubble kids. They live in almost sterile environments because any access or contact with normal germs or pathogens can be fatal to them. And this therapy allowed many of these children, for the first times in their lives, to actually live and play outside and have contact with the wider world. But quite a large number of the children developed leukemia as a result of that therapy. So on the one hand, it cured something, but on the other hand, it created another problem. And that trial was stopped. The children's leukemia, all but one, was treated, and they redid the treatment so that it eliminated or reduced massively the risk of cancer. But as you can see in that example, no malice was intended. Things were done as best as possible, and yet still harm occurred. And that in the popular narrative leads to the idea that this technology isn't safe. We don't know about the power that we're wielding. There are also some examples where the intention wasn't good. So, the MMR vaccine and the link to autism is one incredible example of this. Despite many years later, several years ago, both the scientist and the work were debunked. But to this day, the uptake of vaccines remains low. Even in the UK and the US, we're seeing cases of measles outbreaks, of things that we thought we'd eradicated a long time ago. So the harm continues. And another example, a subject close to my heart, stem cell research. There have been a couple of papers that had promised an easier and faster and cheaper way to derive stem cells that can later be used to regenerate any organ, any tissue, any disease. A game changer. Also, complete fabrication. And whilst no harm was done to anyone, because these were all experimental papers, it feeds into the idea that scientists aren't trustworthy, that there are other reasons, like greed or self-promotion, for doing the research. So as you can see, we haven't done a particularly good job of putting a positive view of biotechnology. And combined with fear of the unknown that we all have, this provides phenomenal source material for writers and artists. But it doesn't have to be this way. Biotechnology, when used correctly and appropriately, can change every single one of our lives. It can help us cure diseases that we didn't think were curable. It can help us live longer and healthier lives. It can help us improve the environment around us. But none of this can happen if we don't have an optimistic vision for biotechnology. And that's why I need all of your help. In my mind, biotechnology belongs to all of us. This is the future of healthcare and of our lives. It doesn't belong to one research team. It doesn't belong to one company. It doesn't belong to a nation. It belongs to all of us. So we all have to be stakeholders in this industry. We all have to advocate and take an interest in biotechnology, and we also have to take an interest in reform and regulation. We have to put our views forward, and we are lucky that we live in a time where it's never been easier to communicate with each other, with policymakers, with everybody. So we have to put forward our ideas, our concerns, and our expectations. Set our standards for a global use of this technology. Ensure and demand transparency from scientists, from policymakers, from everyone. We also have to show that there is an appetite for news about biotechnology, an informed and a balanced view, in order to help counteract some of the negative narrative and the fake news that exists when there is such a vacuum. And also, I want you to all demand from us as scientists and clinicians that we are open about our research, that we're open about our failures as well as our successes. Provide a safe space where we can hold our hands up and say, okay, this didn't work, or this was dangerous and we stopped it, so that everyone else can learn from our mistakes. That's what we need to do. If we do all of this, biotechnology can help us regenerate organs. It can help us transform healthcare all around the world. It can help us create better and smarter and cheaper treatments more quickly. It can help us, in the right condition, address asymmetry to healthcare all over the world. This doesn't have to be something that only the rich benefit from. But this can't happen without all of us being involved. So, with so much at stake, will you help rewrite the future? Thank you.